much time do I have?
Months, at best.
I still have a lot of work that needs to be done.
Hey guys, Omni here. I know I'm super late to this. I know. I saw this movie opening weekend. But as you guys know, if you've been keeping up with all my posts, updates, and stuff like that, the last couple of weeks have been pretty crazy with stuff here on the channel. And that's why I put off making this video. It's just because there's some more, in my book, higher priority stuff I needed to get out of the way. And it's not at all because I didn't want to talk about the movie. But I'm going to give you guys my quick thoughts on Saw 10. Saw X, finally. I mean, it's still out in theaters. You can still go check it out. It's going to be on digital real soon, so you'll be able to watch it at home regardless, so I'll give you guys my quick thoughts on the whole film. This movie really stands out as a Saw entry in a lot of different ways. If you ask me just right out of the gate, I'll just say this right now, I think that if the first movie wasn't so memorable and iconic, this might actually be the best Saw film, if you ask me. I love what they did with this. There's enough about it that still feels familiar. We have Kevin Greutert at the helm this time around, and it's kind of a fresh entry in this franchise. Now, again, I haven't seen still Jigsaw or Saw 3D. I've seen every other one, including Spiral. I just haven't seen those two, so I don't know if those do anything similar, but this feels, one, it's way more linear. It is very much from John Kramer's perspective. TOBIN BELL is at front and center in this film. It's a prequel, despite everything else. It's Saw 10, but it's technically Saw 1.5. It's set between Saws 1 and 2, and kind of shows John's journey through dealing with his mortality, dealing with his diagnosis, and kind of the limited time that he's left with. And we get to live in these moments, because he gets brought into this experimental treatment that he's recruited into, or at least finds out about, and then tries to figure out how to become a part of it in hopes of extending his time on this world, as he's got more things he needs to do. He's got work still to be done, as we know, because it really lets you live with John, live in his head, how he sees the world, and kind of his code, like his lines, what he believes in. It really does dive a little bit more into that, which the films have explored, notably 3, and it does kind of really dive into that even more here, and it's really well done. TOBIN BELL is like selling this. He slides right back into that role like he never left, and we get to see so many other facets of this character that TOBIN just does a phenomenal job bringing to life. We see how he comes up with the ideas for some of his traps. We get a little bit of a tease, an allusion to it, but we don't actually see a trap sequence at all. I think for like 30 to 40 minutes of the movie's runtime, it's very much just a John Kramer story for the bulk of it. We know what he does is vile, but there is a rhyme to the reason. There's an intrigue into the way that he justifies these actions, the way this character operates mentally that is just honestly kind of fascinating in a lot of ways. And we get to kind of live with that character. And it turns out this whole thing, if you've seen the trailers or not, this might be a spoiler for some. If you didn't, it's in the trailers. The treatment was not real. It was just there to extort his money. And lo and behold, they picked the wrong person. And everybody that was involved with this scheme, well, they find themselves in a little bit of a situation that they need to get out of. Given this is set between 1 and 2, Amanda does make an appearance, the role once again reprised by Shawnee Smith. The traps themselves aren't anything to write home about. They are no less brutal, they are no less vicious, they are no less gory. The movie definitely doesn't pull its punches when it comes to the brutality of the traps, but the traps themselves, given the situation and the circumstance, it makes sense once you've seen the movie, given how they've come about, where they are and all this sort of thing. It fits and it makes sense, but they're nothing to write home about compared to other previous traps. But again, this is more about the story. It was really fun. It was really thought-provoking. It was really engaging throughout. It made me wince. It made me get all the stuff that a Saw movie should do. But at its core too, surprisingly enough, there's some characters throughout this that I did care for, that you do relate to, that you're like, should they be in this trap? This movie overall, because of that structure, because we spend so much time with John and his vulnerability and building up to the interaction, building up to the release of the Jigsaw.
Of all the men to cheat, you picked John Kramer?
This is not retribution. It's a reawakening.
It's kind of a different movie that very much so sets itself apart from any of the other ones in the franchise, which may or may not jive with some hardcore fans. You know, I do love this franchise, and I am always kind of cautious about changing a formula that works, but I think what they did here actually moved Saw into a better and maybe a stronger position moving forward if we kind of really focus in on Kramer himself, because I think he's at his core is what makes this really work. You know, there's a fun about the twists, the turns, the reveals, all the different things that are actually interconnected, and then that big old reveal moment at the end of each movie where everything just falls into the place and you're like, that whole thing. Not really present here, but this is very much so a much more methodical and character-driven story here that challenges his morality, his beliefs, and his mortality. And it's really well done. And it further expands and deepens his connection with Amanda. There's a lot of great stuff in this movie, and I loved it to death. And again, I think if the first film, if I didn't just have that bias, if I didn't have that nostalgia for just what the iconography of that first film, I think this actually might be a better movie. The only thing that's holding me back from saying that this is the best Saw film is just the fact that when the first Saw came out, those twists, the turns, the reveal, everything about that movie was so iconic at its time, but I do genuinely think this might be the better movie. But that's me. I'd love to hear from you guys. What did you guys think? I know I'm late to the party on this one, but sound off the comments. I'd love to hear from you all. Let me know what you guys thought. And I hope you enjoyed this review. Again, I apologize for the delay, but in all the same, I'd like it if you leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe if you're not already. And before we go, I want to shout out our channel legends. Manny Share, Ryan Karen, York Horoscott, Margaret Grace, Melito, Robert Anguiano, Jeffrey Hale, Jake and Trail, Eric Official, Amy Becca, and Casey Wood. Thank you guys so much for continued support. That's it for this video, guys. I'll see you all in the next one. Take care, everybody.